Good morning, everybody. How are you? Nice to have you here. We just realized I didn't plug in my microphone. That's really professional. Anyway, I guess we're going to do this without a microphone today because I forgot to plug it in. Lou Reed, always a interesting topic, always an interesting guy to talk. Lou Reed's always got. He just says stuff, right? I'm going to move this a little bit over here. There we go. Move it this way. We're just changing the setup of the way we do things. Lou Reed had some scathing things to say about some incredibly popular artists. Of course, we lost Lou Reed quite a few years ago, but boingboing.net posted this morning, and I thought, I got to say something on this. This is crazy. We'll start with the California bands, and if you haven't seen this, he says we had vast objections to the whole San Francisco scene. It's just tedious, a lie, and untalented. They can't play, and they certainly can't write. I keep telling everybody, and nobody cares. We used to be quiet, but I don't even care anymore, not wanting to say negative things. He says people like Jefferson Airplane, Grateful Dead, all these people are just the most untalented bores that ever came up. Just look at them physically. I mean, you can't take Grace Slick seriously. It's a joke. It's a joke. The kids are being hyped. Wow. Bob Dylan. Dylan gets on my nerves. If you were at a party with him, I think you'd tell him to shut up. Oh my God. You move this a little bit. Creedence Clearwater Revival. He did like CCR. I like them a lot. Like he's doing this incredible link between the old force and he's still got a contemporary feel. He's right there. Pete Townsend, wow, scorching. Tommy is such, he says, Jesus, how people get sucked into that. So talentless. And as a lyricist, he's so profoundly untalented. And philosophically boring, to say the least. Like the record, The Searcher. I asked Timothy Leary. I wouldn't ask Timothy Leary, The Time of Day, for crying out loud. The Kinks, likes them, but not too much. Like an intellectual, I sit and listen to the Kinks and really get off. Then I just get bored after a while. Can't listen to them for too long. The Beatles. You like the Beatles? They just make the songs up, bing, bing, bing. They have to be the most incredible songwriters ever. Just amazingly talented. I don't think people realize how sad it was the day the Beatles broke up. The Stones. He likes the Stones as well. Jagger tops. I'm intrigued with what he has to say, and I'm so interested. If I had to pick my top 10, they've got to be at least top 5 songs. Keith Richards isn't playing many notes, but he's playing, I can't see, it's so small, but he's playing through it all so perfectly. There you go. Now, even though he inducted Frank Zappa a few years ago, and he kind of got around to liking Frank Zappa. At this point in his life, he did not like Frank Zappa. He said, he's probably the single most untalented person I've heard in my life. He's a two-bit pretentious academic, and he can't play his way out of anything. He can't play rock and roll because he's a loser, and that's why he dresses up funny. He's not happy with himself, and I think he's right. God. Alice Cooper did not, and he's talking in this case of Alice Cooper as the band, obviously the early days. God, you really want my opinion on them? They're the worst, most disgusting aspect of rock music. Roxy Music, not a fan as well. Don't like them. I know, I get that, Ruben. You had to have chops to play with Frank Zappa, but he's saying this, I'm not, okay? This is Lou Reed. Roxy Music, don't get them. I saw them at the Bowie concert, and they were all there waiting to be impressed. They bored me. And I went out halfway through it and got a drink. I've heard some of their other stuff that's supposed to be up my alley, but they just don't know what they're talking about. I only hope that one day John will be recognized as the Beethoven or something of his day. He knows so much about music. So there you go. Couple of zingers from Lou Reed. And, I've interviewed a few people through the years who had opinions. Lou, like Bowie, all right. I have shots of them kissing you. He's been called a mercurial personality. You know, like when he's happy, and when he's not, he could have been just a difficult person to be around sometimes. Incredibly talented. I always thought Lou Reed was one of those talents that a lot of people couldn't understand. It certainly took me a lot of years to appreciate his music. As a younger rock lover, Walking on the Wild Side, everyone got that. And then you go a little deeper and you go, well, I got to buy some albums of this guy. And then you start realizing, yeah, maybe I'm not ready for that. And I certainly wasn't in the 70s. And I knew his past, and it just took me a long time. But you'd start hearing things. You'd start hearing things from people, and you'd go, wow, this guy really had a sharper edge. He did not suffer fools. It's almost like that was born for him. So he was just that type of person. He was being honest, but, you know, the California bands, to reiterate, if you just joined on, the California bands, he couldn't stand any of the California bands, said bad things about Grace Slick, the Jefferson Airplane, the Grateful Dead, Bob Dylan. He says if you met him at a party, you'd tell him to shut up. Creedence Clearwater Revival, he loved the way John Fogerty mixed the old and the new. Pete Townsend, he thought he was overrated as a songwriter. The Kinks he liked, but not for a long time, he says. The Beatles, he loved them. He says people will not realize how sad of a day it was when the Beatles broke up. Loved the Stones, very interested in Jagger. Loved what they were doing. He says Keith Richards didn't play a lot of notes, but when he played, man. Didn't like Frank Zappa, did change because he inducted him later on. Alice Cooper, he said, God, do you have to really, you want me to give you my opinion on that? He said they were a disgusting aspect of rock music. Roxy Music, he didn't understand why some people thought they went down Lou Reed alley a little bit. Loved David Bowie. And these are all from a book. I think it's Oh Pardon Me, Sir. And boingboing.net posted this today. And I thought it'd be an interesting thing to come on and talk about that. The scathing reviews of some people, you know, especially the California scene, which is still has stood the test of time so incredibly well. I mean, the ultimate example of that would be, well, Crosby, Stills, and Nash, and of course the Eagles, and all those bands, you know, the Grateful Dead. J.J. Cale was awesome, Ruben, yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to get on, give you a little bit of this. We're talking to Ian Anderson in exactly 2 hours. If you still have questions for Ian Anderson, it was postponed. We were supposed to do it last week. If you still have questions for Ian Anderson, please put them down in the description of this video, or go into the community page we have a picture of Ian Anderson. You can put your question there as well. We've got 2 hours before that happens. We've got, what do we got? We've got Davy Johnstone coming up on Friday from the Elton John Band. The longest lasting member of any Elton John band was Davy. Nigel's would be second. Dee played with them for a long time, came back in the 80s. Dee Murray, their bass player. So if you have questions for Ian Anderson, put them on here and we'll give them to Ian.